Good morning, everybody. It is Monday and it's Wake Up and Resell with Reseller Revenue Facebook group. So if you want to join us on our calls or have access to all the calls that we do, they are on our Patreon. So go to the Facebook group and join. It's free till January, and you can see all of our recordings and come on the calls and participate with us. So today we're going to talk about pricing. I think this kind of came up to me because I was telling Meg yesterday that I don't usually go backwards much and like change pricing or change things very much. But I don't know. Apparently in April, I thought that my stuff was just worth a lot of money. I don't know. I think I mispriced everything I listed in April. Not really sure what delusion I was having, but I was having a delusion with pricing in April. And I went back and I changed the pricing on like 20 or 30 items that I listed in April, and like over half of them was sold overnight. So it was truly a pricing issue. And when I went back, I was like, who priced these? What was I doing? I mean, I was like way off. I don't know. I had a moment apparently because it wasn't good. So um sometimes we have to think about, sometimes our mindset changes with our pricing, sometimes the market changes. Even in jewelry, I'll see in vintage costume jewelry, it'll swing wildly depending on what's on trend. Catherine asked, how much did you drop them by? I think I dropped, it was just individual. I just went back and repriced them. I didn't do a wide markdown. I just repriced everything. But some of them was like, I mean, quite a bit. Like one necklace was at 115. I dropped it to 99. It sold instantly. So, and some of it's because people that were watching it or whatever got the notification. I'm sure that I lowered it, but I mean, some of them were just way off. I don't know what I was doing. So I was so sometimes we do have to think about that. And we also have to think about, like I noticed a lot of it was like Trifari. Trifari is kind of going down. Like the high end Trifari is still really good. But the middle of the road, lower end Trifari, not so good anymore. And 6 months ago, I could price Trifari at whatever I wanted it, and it would go overseas every time, good price. Not so much right now. Coro used to be the opposite. I couldn't hardly give it away. Now it's going way up. So I'm sure in all of our niches, we have things like that, you know, um, the wants, the needs, the demand, it just changes. So, and also our exporting, I know in jewelry, a lot of my stuff goes overseas. And when it goes straight international, it's usually because the dollar's not as strong. So we'll see those fluctuations, which will also cause price fluctuations in what we're selling. So we have to kind of think about that. And I will say that when I'm looking at other people's stores, whether I'm just, snooping around eBay or whether I'm looking into it specifically for someone, pricing is a huge issue that we all still have. And I guess I'm not always sure, like I could say the same thing to myself in April. So I know that I'm guilty of it sometimes. I'm not saying I'm not, but we talk about it a lot. And I really feel like for whatever reason, this is something that just hasn't quite gotten through with the pricing. So I tried to also do I have some examples of what I think I see the most with people with pricing, and then you guys can kind of chime in and see what you guys think or if you sound familiar in what I'm saying. We all have to have metrics, right? And we have what we feel like we should be meeting with what we buy it for and what we sell it for. And that's great. But whenever I ask somebody about pricing or how'd you price those items, if you ever answer back that I paid this, we're automatically on the wrong track, because I don't care what you paid for it. It makes zero difference to the market what you paid for that item. It might make a difference to your pocketbook. It makes zero difference to the market. So you overpay for something makes no difference when you go to sell it. That sounds terrible, but it's true. So I think that that's the number one pushback I get, is that I paid XYZ. I don't care. And then that probably sounds rude to me, but I don't care what you paid for it, because it really, one has nothing to do with the other. It might have to do with your profit margin metric, but then you're wrong and you shouldn't have bought it. So, I mean, that's kind of what we come down to. So my examples, and I wrote them down when I was thinking about this yesterday. I see like people like price buckets. I find people in. I find people meeting one of these molds. So listen and see if you know who you fall into, or what you might be in. So the number one person I see with pricing is they're secretly in love with their items, and they're going to overprice them because they really actually never want to sell them. They just want to hang on to them and love them and admire them forever. And they won't have any money, but while I buy more, but at least I'll have my precious inventory and all the money, because they think not selling it, underselling it is like getting all the money, but they really just want to look at their inventory and hoard it. And that's probably the most dangerous one, but I feel like it comes from collectors a lot. So people that love their niche, they're passionate about their niche, they really actually don't want to sell anything. Then we have the I'm not in love with my inventory, but I think I have really good stuff and I'll be darned if I'm giving it away. I hate all low ballers and I will complain about them instead of just counter offering. I keep sourcing even if my store is slightly bloating all the time and I'm not broke, but I'm not making enough money, but it's the low ballers and the economy's fault. That seems to be like one whole section of people here.
I don't think it's their fault, but I do hate low ballers. I hate when I have a $50 item and they offer a dollar.
You know how you
Literally
fix
a
that? You
dollar.
put a minimum offer on. I don't get dollar offers. You know why? Because I have a minimum offer on all my
Okay.
items. So I don't get those dollar people. Problem
But then
solved.
you have to do that individually, don't you?
Nope, it's set as one of my settings. Every single one of my items just comes up with a minimum offer. So, yep,
Do you set
problem
it
solved.
as a percent?
I said it's
Off?
six. Like I put 6.99 is my minimum offer because nothing. I'm never going to sell anything for 6.99 or less. So I put that as my minimum offer, and it takes care of those really people that are just being silly, trying to get
Okay.
things for $1 or $2. So that one's not to be confused with I don't care about my items, but I know they're good. I'm pricing everything more than fair, but I need to allow for offers and sales and coupons. So actually I'm pricing above the market, but I'm going to tell myself I'm not, because it's not my fault people are going to come in and make me an offer or they'll have to run a coupon. So I just be giving eBay and the customer all my money and I wouldn't have enough left over. So I won't pay it for good inventory, but I'm going to complain about how my cheap stuff doesn't sell and it just sits there. And I'm going to talk about how I can't find any good inventory in my area, but I won't drive anywhere to get it either. I'm not driving over an hour because if it's not here, it's not my fault. I'm not sending out offers and I'll sit on my semi-bloated inventory for years because I have the space. This one's probably the most common one I see. It's that I'm going to lot for offers, I'm going to lot for coupons, I'm going to, I'm not giving eBay any more money than I have to, and I'm not going to send out big offers because I already gave them a good deal. This is a really toxic mindset, if you ask me, with the pricing. On the other side, we have, which is not good either, we buy whatever looks good and it might sell, especially because I heard it on a Bolo video once. And I'll price on the high side because I overpaid anyway and I shouldn't have bought it and I didn't comp it, but I have to make my money back. That's just as dangerous, right? So, or they're buying in bulk and we're going to price really low and I'm going to sell a lot of items and I may or may not be making money. I'm not really sure, but I sell a lot of stuff and I buy a lot of stuff, so it must be okay. Also not a great pricing strategy. So somewhere in the middle is, probably the right way, but the right way for me may not be the right way for you. But I feel like there's a lot of complainers with our pricing, but we don't want to actually um figure out what we need to do about it. And sometimes whenever I say, how do you price your items? I get wishy-washy answers, and those answers I don't necessarily understand, because we have to have a method for pricing our items because it's the number one reason our items aren't selling. So how are you guys coming up with that price? And hopefully you guys are all going to say, I go in, I look at the solds, I see in my market what is selling, what they're selling at, and I decide to either go high, middle, or low road. How are we pricing our items? Are we just pulling numbers out of the air? Or we're going to the comping price and then we're adding a little bit for the offers and the sales? How are you guys pricing your items? Not everybody all at once.
I think it's a mixture of pricing points and strategies for many of us. I have some items that are pretty high in the competition. They're a little oversaturated, so those items I'll price them low and just try to move them and get out. Then I have some stuff that is, considerably slower, but worth a lot more money, and I'll price those at market or a little higher. Because I know they're gonna sit for a while regardless.
What's your thought when you decide to price? Because I'm not saying I don't do this either. So, but when you decide to make the decision, okay, this is rare or it's really good, and you decide to price above market, what is your thinking on that? That you'll get lucky and somebody will say it's, there's only one on the market? Is it because there's not very many out there?
It typically for me, that's what it is. There's not many of them out there, and the sell-through rates are good. I mean, I try not to pick up anything under a 60% sell-through rate, but we do. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. We all grab stuff that we shouldn't be grabbing. But
Oh
when
yeah.
I grab those items, it's like, for instance, I got that cake knife from the Ben's, and it's going to sell for $50 or $60, and I'm good with that. But it's not the fastest mover. It's going to sit around for a while. So why price it at $20 to get rid of it in a hurry when there's only,
Well,
30
you
of
got to
them?
find the right buyer. That's a
Yeah,
find the right buyer
right.
purchase for sure.
So items like that, I don't have no problem with setting them for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But a pair of Levi's or a pair of Nike sneakers, Cole Haans, they got to just get priced to move because there's so many of them available.
Well, and that's a good point, though. That's a really good point that you make in the fact that you're competing SKU for SKU. So there's um, certain areas like shoes, clothes, things like that, that like there are exactly or pretty close to the exact same item that you're selling, other people are selling. So to some effect, you have it good because you can price according to the bunch of other ones that are out there, and you could compute a sell-through rate. I find in one-offs and in like vintage items, we can't really compute a sell-through rate at all because they're all different to a certain extent and store dependent. So there is a little bit of pulling prices out of the sky. But you're right, when something's got to have the exact right buyer, it's going to sit there a little bit. That's just the way it is. Meg?
Well, you
Oh
can't
yeah.
price a amputee shoe at
Mm-hmm.
high, or you can price an amputee shoe for higher if you only got the left shoe
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have their option is to buy brand new or
Mm-hmm.
buy yours, and they only
Yep.
need one. So, I mean, there are times when you price it up, but by the most part, I think the vast majority of us are in niches where it's just going to be, let's get it priced to move.
No, I think that that's what we should be doing. When I go into stores, it's not, I would say less than half of us are actually doing that. I think what happens is we get that little poker of like, oh, then I'm gonna run a coupon, poke, poke, and then somebody's gonna make me an offer. Oh, and then I'm gonna have to have a markdown sale. And so then we go, we're gonna add $5 to take care of that. I feel like I think that's probably the most common pricing strategy we have. Make
So I do both the like modern clothing where you can calculate sell-through rate pretty easily and pricing, and then also like vintage jewelry and vintage clothing when you can't. So, but with both of them, I guess I would just start with a general eBay search, look at sold versus actives, try to narrow it down like so it actually matches what I'm selling the best way. But then to look at pricing, I have to go to Terapeak because they changed it now. Like the prices on the sold listings are not correct. Like 90% of them aren't. Even if it has a strike through, that's not the price. Like going therapy gets lower. So I bet a lot of people that don't realize that, like everyone's overpricing because if you go by the sold comps, like those prices, they're all overpriced.
they are,
So
and
I
I don't know
noticed that. So
why.
that I like once I realized that I went back through
It's
some of them
true.
are going forward, it like made a difference, I think.
I'm not
Um,
really sure what happened there, but you're completely right.
yeah, it's really,
Kind of
really
like,
misleading because it'll even show the strike through and make it look like it
mhm.
was accepted and or if they used a coupon, it won't show that or yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
been off, I think.
yeah. But most of
Yesterday
the time, so
everybody's
with
shipping
the
was off.
modern clothing, I'll just like, price it like at market or I used to go like middle of the road basically, or maybe like literally the therapy price or whatever, basically. But I'm starting to think the other day I heard a video talking about like maybe pricing it like a little bit up, like not over market or anything like that, but just if other people can get that higher price just because they ask. Like so I've been trying to do that, maybe just raise it just a little bit on those kind of items, but keeping an eye on it, and I'm quick to move it down. Like I'm really impatient with selling stuff, so that won't be a problem. And then vintage stuff, like I try to still price like at market basically. whatever.
And
You know, it's a
I
little bit
think
hard
the
to
key,
determine what the market is on one-offs, but you can kind
Yeah.
of tell, you can kind of narrow it down, and you can kind of see that some things are oversaturated, like there's 9 million like Monet plain gold chain necklaces. Like that's obviously gonna be have a slow sell-through rate. Like
yep, and the key word to what you just said was those kind of items. So we have to be able to identify which kind of items are eligible, I guess, for us to price up a little bit. They have to have some kind of edge on what's out there, right? We cannot price our stuff up because it's ours and that's it. Like,
yeah.
you
If
know,
you
and
don't
I
have a
think
good like
sometimes,
cool factor value, then maybe take a survey of people that you know, like, is this really cool? Because there's some things
yeah,
I've had too where I'm just like, is it really cool? Or am I just like the only person that thinks so?
right. And I think we get to like, and I think that's what must have happened to me in April. I don't know if all of a sudden I thought, wow, my store must be better and I can ask better prices. I'm not really sure, but or I got hit really hard that month with offers and coupons and stuff, and I just thought, well, I have to pad it a little bit. But you know what happened is so I keep all my inventory by month and then SKU. So I can visually see immediately if I'm heavy on a month, like what's selling. And usually it's exactly about 2 months behind I'll start seeing where it's really dwindling. Like right now, my July is really shrinking. I'm almost down to, it's at calf. So I always see that about once it's been on the market for about 2 months, I can see that my inventory for that month has really dwindled. But my April, I could visually see was bulky. Like I still had a lot of stuff I listed in April, and I'm like, why? And then I went in and it's because I lost my mind in April and, overpriced my stuff. And I didn't really bring it down that much. I really just brought it down to where it should have been in the first place. And then bam, it was just, I mean, literally within hours it was selling. So, and also it gave it a boost when I changed my pricing or whatever, but I was overpriced. That was it. I was
Yeah.
overpriced.
And I find like lowering the price manually works so much better, or maybe just gets more of a profit at the end of the day compared to putting things on markdown sale. I literally just tried an experiment this morning and I'll let you know how it goes, but I took all my markdown sales off because they literally never sell like on a straight markdown. It's always like on an offer on top of that. But my coupon, I've been putting like a 10% coupon on my store across the board. And I get like hundreds of dollars, sometimes like at least like $50 a day in sales from just the coupon. They're cool 10% off. So I'm like, why am I gonna do the sale? So I'm gonna like set up a manual markdown like schedule and do that, and then just hope that they'll take the 10% off only.
Yeah, well, when I'm cautious on looking to see what our coupons do because they automatically apply now. So
Yeah,
it's
but that's
always
fine because I always send like 15% or something on offer. So if they want to just take 10, that's fine.
exactly. And that's the great thing with the coupon versus markdowns is they can't combine with an offer. So that's great. I feel like coupons hate my store. I don't really know what the deal is. I put coupons on, I don't get sales. I don't really know. I think it's just a me thing. Coupons are not my friend. I do them sometimes because like you, I'm going to send out that offer anyway. So I don't mind putting the coupon out. It doesn't bother me at all. Um, I don't know. And I do agree with you with the markdowns. I do like the manual price change better. But once you get over 2,000 items, the manual, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. So I just have to do the aged inventory markdown and hope for the best because it really sounds better. And then I get through page like 3 and I'm over it.
I got through
So
2 pages of the 50 listings each this morning. I was like, oh, okay. Like it wasn't like
yeah,
difficult, but I was being kind of like OCD and weird about it. I like when it ends in 99 cents. So I was changing the digits, which
mhm.
after now to pay 2 pages, I'm not doing that. That's too much work, but
Yeah. Once you get into the thousands of listings, it's
not doing that.
a little daunting. It's a little daunting for me, but I agree with you. I like it that way. Devin,
I'm sorry, did you call my name?
I did.
Okay, sorry, my wife started asking me questions. I've lost my train of thought now. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Just raise your hand again if you think of it.
All right.
Larry?
Yeah, so in my case, I basically have two modes. One is this a commodity? Are there 47 of these things up for sale? Which in my world, that's a lot. I mean, I'm not dealing with competition of thousands, but in that case, I take into condition. So and it's hard to get that from Terapeak, right? You can't really see it. So if I sort on price or whatever,
I'll find the zone for that condition. If it's in really, really good condition versus just if it's really beat up or something in between. And then I'll find kind of a range for that and then price it on the lower end. And then I almost always put in a promotion of whatever they're asking plus 2% is kind of my basic way I deal with that. I'm probably giving away a lot of money, but I'm selling a lot of product. And then if I got something really rare, I've got a centrifuge from the 1920s, you know, a medical thing that spins vials. Not a whole lot of those up for sale right now. If you know, I look at the 3-year on Terapeak and I get like 2 hits and they're going for a couple $100. It's like, brand new ones you buy for 1,000, these antique ones, whatever. Let's try 300 and see what happens, right? Because if somebody comes along, great. And if somebody offers me $100, great, because I'm into it for 20. So that's kind of how I do pricing.
Yep, and Kimberly says she uses price buckets. I'm kind of like that, I think. You know, most of the stuff I front loaded my knowledge on. I'm only in jewelry, so I'm very niche down. I know what things go for pretty much. If I have something that I'm not sure, then I comp it. If it's, you know, like a regular Coro rhinestone necklace, nothing exciting, you know, I look at it and lots of times it falls into the, is that a $26.99, $29.99, or $34.99? And if it's really nice, I do $39.99. But it's pretty much in those price buckets unless it's really good. And if it's really good and specialized, then I will look it up and I'll do it different. Like I was gonna, that Tafari said I just put up, I was like, I can't really find one just like to get like it, but the category that it's in, or the like the name of the collection always sells really high. So I just put that one up for auction, but I'm not really an auction lover. But in that case I did, and I'm glad I did because I think it's going to go pretty good. But we have to not go down those pricing rabbit holes, but still price responsibly. We can't go down, you know, where I'm spending 20 minutes every single listing trying to figure out the price, because then it doesn't make sense. I could have listed 4 more things. You know, I'd rather list more items. But if it's different, it's unique, and it's got a coolness factor, then yes, look it up. And I'm okay with that. I price my stuff up high if I know it's really unique. You know, I've had, you know, like Coro duet clips that were really unique, and I'll price at the high end of the market, and then I'll take an offer. But we have to remember that when we're doing that, because what happens is we'll price it high, hoping for the best. Then we'll get an offer when we'll think, oh my gosh, they offered me 40% off. Yeah, but if I was priced up anyway, it's probably only like 20% off, because I probably added to it because it was neat or it was rare or whatever. And then we just have to make that decision. And if I pay $2 for it, I will sometimes take a 40%, especially if I just pulled a number out of the sky and was hoping. Sometimes I'll just take it because it's cash. And if I can turn, you know, $5, $4 into a couple $100 like that, I'm taking it, unless it's got like really high potential. But usually those are specialty buyers. You got to have the right person come along to come and buy, you know, spend that kind of money on a piece of old jewelry, you know. I hear a lot of people talking about like, well, the economy is bad, and what about, you know, they're going to get rid of these niche things before they're going to get rid of, um, you know, things they need like clothes and food and everything. You know what I feel like that? I feel like people that have always spent exorbitant amount of money, like on vintage jewelry and stuff. Yeah, like with Meg, what I'm saying is the collectors and stuff like that. For one, their income stream may not have really suffered. So like the high tier people usually don't feel the dips in the economy like normal average folks do. So I feel like they're still buying the higher end stuff. They're still buying the collectibles. And there's such a thing as like jewelry addicts and stuff. Like, I mean, I know when some of my customers get paid, you know, they're in there buying. And while I cannot relate to this at all, I feel like it's a thing. You know, I'm sure you get high-end shoe buyers that are the same, that, you know, they're collectors. So collectors are going to collect no matter what their money situation is a lot of times. So I don't really worry about it too much. It doesn't really stress me out. But pricing on the lower end, if it's a really saturated market and you're competing SKU for SKU, is probably a decent strategy. You know, if there's 1,000 of your exact same item listed, you want to be at least in the bottom quarter. Unless you have a huge store. Huge stores sometimes can pull better prices. I've noticed as I've gotten bigger, I can get a little bit more money out of things because people are in there making carts, they're making bulk purchases, they're sending a lot overseas or whatever. So I could put a little bit more money on, I'm definitely getting more per item now than I was for the exact same item a year ago, 1,000 items ago. So I do think once you get to a certain, or if people look at your store as like you're an expert store, we consistently, when I research with jewelry calls, I consistently see certain stores are getting great prices. It's not because their stuff's any better. It's because their store has sold 30,000 vintage items, and people feel confident in buying from them, and they can go into one store and buy 10 of what they're looking for. Whereas, if you're one-off stores, it's harder to pull that repeat customers in. And repeat customers are my main source of income. I get more, maybe they're only like 30 or 40% or whatever my percentage is. However, they spend more money. My repeat customers spend more money and they'll buy more at one time. They'll feel confident enough to buy a box of stuff or a whole, because I offer $50 and over as free shipping on my orders. And so they'll, take full advantage of that. That's fine. I don't mind that at all. Yesterday, anybody that had calculated shipping, did you notice the big dip in sales? Shipping, eBay said there was a big glitch, and I saw the glitch on the shopping end of it, and it was ridiculous. Like, it was showing shipping costs of like hundreds of dollars on every item. It was really bad. They had the problem. It says they weren't showing any discount, but I think it was more than that because someone would show like $1,000 to ship, a pair of shoes. I mean, it was stupid. So I wondered if that affected some people's sales yesterday because it was a little crazy. I do flat rate, so I wouldn't notice, but and we'll talk about that when we do a bigger deep dive into shipping. But if you can get to flat rate, it's a good thing. It really is, and it's good for the customers. Really, I want to get to where I can do flat rate for Canada too, and I'm pretty close to it right now, but I'm not quite confident enough. I tried it for a little bit, and I only ever lost like $3, so it wasn't too bad. Yeah, I don't know that I don't think the sellers would have noticed the shipping thing. It was the buyers. On the buyers end, the buyers were seeing huge shipping costs when they would go in and look at people's items, like hundreds of dollars to ship their item, and it was just off. They had a glitch.
There was one shared that they calculated said it will cost between $7 and 2,800.
Yes, that's what I was seeing too as a customer. Because I was going in and buying some shipping stuff that I buy on eBay, and it said that my shipping costs may be between $4 and like, wasn't quite that dramatic, but it was like $4 and $240. So I was like, what? Like, that's crazy. And so I think seasoned buyers probably would message the seller or whatever and know it was just a glitch. But I could see it would have shied some new people away, probably with like, no, I'm not going to accidentally pay $2,400 or whatever. So that was a problem. And for those of you that weren't, if you didn't read this in the Facebook group, I'm like, I've given up on trying to fix my false sign ads. I think eBay's broken right now with that. And I went through it with a rep for like a long time. I had the item numbers they went through. They said they agreed with me on all of them that I filed the report on, and that all but one. They didn't agree with me on one because they said that they're being very careful because they said that I sent an item, like the picture was a totally different item. It wasn't my item that I sent them. And then when I called them out on it, they never even shipped it back. So they knew they were playing a game, but they still counted it as an INAD. And they said, well, we can't prove and we have to believe our buyers. And I'm like, but the picture of the item is not what I sent. They're like, I know, but we can't prove that. So that one, they didn't agree with me, but the rest of them, they agreed with me. They said, yes, you did the right thing, but basically there was nothing they could do about it. And they just recommend that I offer 30-day free shipping or free returns, 30-day free returns, and be a top rated seller. And I'm like, I'm a top rated plus seller and I've offered 60-day free returns. And then they didn't have anything else to say. So I gave up. I'm just not even putting any more time into it. I'm over it. I also did Facebook for Business. They told me the exact same thing. I don't know. I don't know. All we can do is the best we can do and just keep moving on. I'm not giving it any more of my time. and I've told you guys this a million times, is through all that, I never one time felt angry or I mean, it's irritating on a business level, but I didn't emotionally feel irritated. It's just part of doing business. We just keep going, and we just you can't let things like that get to you. People immediately pop off emotionally about an eBay, whether it's a low baller or it's a return or whatever. It's going to get you. It's no good. It's no good at all for you to emotionally let things poke at you, because I mean, while it's irritating, it's business, and we should just go in expecting these things to happen to us, because guess what? They're going to keep happening to us. So we just do what you can. Tomorrow, if you guys could bring an item, a listing, whether you're trying to list it, it's in the draft, it's an item you don't know why it's not selling, just something so that we can price them together. Doesn't matter if it's a one-off, doesn't matter if it's saturated, because then I want everybody to comp it at the same time and tell me what you would have priced that item at. Don't worry about, I guess don't have too thin a skin, because everybody could tell you you're wrong on your price. Does it mean you're wrong? Not necessarily. It's just an exercise. I guarantee you I price my jewelry differently than like Meg does. Does it mean Meg's wrong? No. It's just different. But it's good to have other people's perspectives. And it's also good to like go, okay, I think you might be holding on to that for 4 years. Does that mean you have to listen to me? Absolutely does not mean you have to listen to me. Does it mean it's a good idea to at least get I love talking to people that are more successful than me. I feel like that is one of my biggest motivators. I love surrounding myself with better resellers than I am, because it gives me an insight into what they're doing, how they're doing it. Does it mean I have to be like them? No, but it's interesting, right? I mean, in business, we should always be interested and hungry to see what other people are doing and how they're doing it differently. Just, and then I think we all become a mesh of different ideas, and I have implemented certain things that I wasn't doing, and it's made huge differences in my business. And then other things, maybe I try and it just didn't work for me, but it works for somebody else. And we have to remember that. I see some people running, well, we all see it, right? The dollar auctions, or some of these bigger stores can do that, right? Some of these bigger stores can handle that because it's always going to get bid up. Same as on Whatnot. They could run the dollar auctions because they know it's going to get run up. But if you just started out of the gate, it may not work out for you. And so maybe we shouldn't go all in on a new strategy. I like to try to do different strategies bit by bit and not just all in. I'm actually running an experiment that I'm going to maybe later this week, because it'll be 2 weeks. Say what I found out. So 2 weeks isn't really long enough to have a definite answer on it, on how I feel about it, but it's given me a pretty good insight in it. Meg says she just priced the Trifari brooch up just to try. Why not? Waited a few months, asked me and Lynn if I should hold out hope, and I said nope. Lowered it to $30, sold in an hour. Yep, it was just off. And so I don't really necessarily mind crushing people's dreams like that, because I was absolutely sure Meg's brooch was never going to sell for what she had it priced at. So I'm more than happy to be like, Meg, this is what it should be
Sometimes
at.
you just gotta try and just figure. Because sometimes
that's
it's like
okay.
if I don't price it up and then it sells instantly, and I'm like, damn, I should have at least tried. So yeah.
And you know what happens to me though? I have those things. I'll price something up and think the right collector comes along, but then you know what happens? I forget about it. I forget that I priced it up, and then I feel like I'm getting gypped when people lowball. When I feel like I'm getting lowballed, when I'm probably just getting offered market, and I forget that I padded it, or that I shot high on that one. So that's the only danger in that, is I forget that I did it, and then I'm like offended when people want to offer me less. Devin?
So I've done significant changes, like I want to say microscopic changes, but once you get to a certain pattern to where that you like the way things are going, you're just doing, it's like turning the dial, just tweaking. It's like I wouldn't say it's like herding baby duck. It's like you're tweaking the knobs like on a big control board. It's okay. You're just doing the fine tuning aspects of it. And I've been doing this now for about, I guess, probably going close to 2 months now. And I mean, I don't know what our role is within the group of if we can like reference tech or not. I mean, he's reseller Jesus in my book, but I talked to him last week, and there's something he's always said that's always been in the back of my mind. Is like, if there's any secret that he can tell me, what is it? Because one thing he's always said is, I do not let nickels hold up dollars. Okay. And I thought there was some kind of secret formula he was talking about. And I asked him about this last week, and he says, no, it's a mindset. It's not so much I'm not, there's not a certain percentage or whatever that I'm keeping from you guys, because he's always said, everybody's promoted listing number is going to be different, because you got to know what your numbers are. Okay. So he's not going to spoon feed people like that. And so it made me realize that, and this kind of goes off to some things that other people have said, if you kind of look at the stock market, if you have like a 7% return, you're doing pretty good for the year. So I'm in my book now, if I can just triple my money on something, yeah, can it sell for, if my average cost is 320, if I'm around like 325, 350 right now, and if I say, if I got it listed for 25, 30 bucks, and I can sell it tomorrow for 15, I'm going to take an offer on, because I've already tripled my money on it. Okay. Take the, it's Einstein always said the greatest, one of the greatest things in the world is compounding interest. If I can take that and, take that, let's say if it's, after fees and everything, I've made $10. If I can multiply that 10 times over the course of a year versus, getting mad, sticking my tongue, sticking my lip out, and, standing on top of this, dying on the mountain, if I'm going to get this for 25 no matter what, then basically what it comes down to, I really had to change of heart the way I want to get this stuff done. Because I mean, you said they're talking about people, we've seen if you're in all these other groups, especially these national groups, people are saying, my sales are absolutely slow this week, and I've had a record breaking week again. I mean, I'm on the verge of hitting 2,000 for the week. So, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. It's like all of a sudden I've seen the light on this. Okay. It's like I've been baptized again as reselling Nirvana on this thing, because, and again, I guess what I'm going back to, there's not been one thing that I've completely just ended everything and relisted everything, as far as, in other words, I didn't start up from scratch. I've been fine tuning, and I've been patient, and I'm starting to see I'm starting to reap the rewards of what we've been doing over the past 2 months. So, I guess that's all I can say. And I don't do price buckets. I kind of have a feeling for what I'm going to list it for based on, I can look at comps, and in 20 seconds, I realize what I'm going to do it for. So, but that's all I wanted to say as far as going back to the original thought process.
Yep, I am 1,000% have always been on that bandwagon. 1,000%. I've always been, quit tripping yourself up because you didn't think you got all the money. I've always been a some of the money all the time person.
Well, I've had that philosophy too. It's just, like I said, I thought that I thought I was going to have to fly to Florida, lock him in a room. It's okay. What was your meaning behind behind that statement?
It's not. It's just for one, everybody needs to quit being so darn greedy and thinking our stuff's better than everybody else's.
Yeah.
That's part of it. Another part is we get that price in our head, and then, like, let's say I price something at $20 and I get an offer for 12. And so then that percentage comes up beside it, right? Saying this is how much it's off. And then it makes us feel like, well, I'm not giving it away for 40% off. But what if your price wasn't right to begin with? That's when it's a problem. If your price was right to begin with, that's one thing. And people do just lowball you. You do not have to take all the offers. I don't take all the offers. Do I take a lot of offers? Oh, I do. I take a lot of offers. And it's because for whatever reason, it makes people feel good. I send a lot of offers too. So no shade on that. I don't send dollar offers, but I send a lot of offers. So
I'm trying to check every 15. I think Russ, you had said it here recently, said that the average person spends 7 minutes on eBay. Well, shoot, if that's the case, I need to be at least glancing at my phone on sending offers like at least once an hour, and not waiting to do it like once or twice a day.
Well, and here's the biggest thing is you wouldn't believe the amount of people that don't send offers. And
It's
to me,
crazy.
that's just like having all of your money and all of your buyers, and you're telling them they're not important, and you don't
It's like
care
having a
because
storefront, but yet the close sign is always showing to the outside.
it does. And so and I don't ever mind people referencing tech. You know, I cut my eye teeth on tech, and I still am in that group, and I still, you know, I take some from lots of people, you know, from what I've learned. I have no problem people saying, "Hey, you know, I heard this," and actually it would irritate me if people didn't give credit where credit was due on certain things because you know, there's certain things I'll hear and I don't ever mind saying where I got it from because I think it's a good idea. So
Yeah.
but I definitely have always had that mindset, and the fact that we're not sending offers and the fact that we are he also always says that he only sends offers on days he wants to sell things.
Right.
And I think that that is 100% good fact because if you're not sending the offers, you're saying I ain't really that interested. I'm
Well,
not really that
here's
excited
what I
today.
say that's crazy is that I'll send offers on stuff, and maybe that later that afternoon or maybe a day or two later, it sells for full price.
It's because it's generating activity on that item.
Yeah.
Same
Now,
way as
one thing that
counter offering.
one of the tweaks I've been doing is that every morning I try to, when I have the time, everything that's 12 months and older, I end and relist. Okay.
I don't
And like,
subscribe to that, by the way. Don't
I'm
subscribe to that.
sorry.
I'm just putting in my nickel, like telling people I do not recommend
Okay.
doing that.
Well, that's one thing I do. Um, and so when I think Meg was talking earlier, when we were talking about vintage, and I was literally sitting here relisting a vintage 1990s champion T-shirt. Okay, and I'm going there and look at all the listings. Like, this thing is not cool compared to what I thought it was. I had a list for $20. Anything that was remotely close to mine was being sold between $9 and $12. So guess what? It's now relisted for $11.99. So
Yep. No, when we do have to revisit things, the end and sell similar thing, I think I've done your stuff can easily get stuck in like re-indexing purgatory, and it ends up being a bad thing. I've been there, done that. It wasn't good. I quit doing it. It was better. Um, it's fine to revisit things, and it's great to go back and fix our old listings. But just ending and selling similar. Plus, I need that original date is my backup plan. If I can't find something, as long as I can see the original date it was listed, I'm good. If I lose that date,
well,
not good.
that's one thing I do. I go into the in the SKU and I add the original listing date to the SKU number.
And that helps. Yeah, I do that too. Sometimes though, I don't know if you guys ever have sometimes I'm like, how did I type that? Like it is wrong. And I get fat figures or I don't know what happens to me, but sometimes I'm wrong. So if I can go back in and it just tells me the date it was listed, plus then I lose that ability to when we filter by when it was listed, now it's got a new date. And so now it looks new instead of old. And then I treat it like it's new, but it's not new. It's been sitting there for 6 months. I just don't. For me, it's just not for me. If it works for other people, they should absolutely do it. Larry says twice a week he makes 10% discount sales for items 60 or to 180 days old, 5 buckets based on time on the market. Yeah, and so I have buckets like that too, Larry. And everybody's got to decide what their own bucket is. You all have to decide what your aged inventory system is. That's why there's zero chance you will ever find. And I know people have kind of pushed on me a little bit for this, like they want like a handbook that this is what we do as a group. I am never going to make that. I will as far as like you need to set up this, or you need to set up your business policies. You need to set up your aged inventory system. So I would say that. I would say I think everybody should have one. I will not tell you what it is, because based on space, money, cash flow, everybody's is going to be different. So I don't like the cookie cutter approach at all. Larry?
Yes, one of the things I've observed is I got roughly 600 items for sale. And when I do that 180% or 180 days plus, I'm getting a little over 100 items that, as far as the way I'm running my business, I'm considering very old age stuff. I know some people have much older. I need to now go in and just get rid of that crap. I'm going to just pull it off and donate it because I don't need it. And my store is going to go from 600 to 550, or I mean 450 or so, but that's okay. because I just have this dead crap that I'll lose and I'll end up getting have to not, I'll cancel an order because I can't find this stuff. I hate that. But anyway, I want to
I
lighten up
don't put
my.
anything in my store that's over a year old. It goes. Now, if I'm going through it and I see like, oh, this was really good, it should have sold, I'll put it back into my inventory and it'll be just like a brand new item. But it doesn't happen very often. Usually it didn't sell. You know why? Because it was crap. That's why it didn't sell. It was not a good item. I was wrong and it shouldn't have been there. I think the biggest pushback I get on this thought process is, well, I have the space. Okay, like I have the space too, but do I want to fill it full of stuff that's not selling? Every month that your item sits there and doesn't sell, it's like it's charging you rent. It's taking up your space, your time. Yeah, yes, you did the work, and I get well, I listed it, so I'm just gonna let it sit there. I already did the work. Okay, well that's fine, but when people are scrolling through your store and they see the same stuff sitting there now we're going on 2 years. I mean, if you have regulars, they're sitting there rolling their eyes thinking, why is this stuff still in there? Like, why doesn't this lady cut this stuff loose? We need to, and I do feel like it's like a weight on our store sometimes. The older stuff gets to be stale inventory and it's just sitting there and I feel like it weighs our store down. Meg?
Yeah, I was just gonna second that it's also like, well, why wouldn't you want your sell-through rate better, basically, too? Like,
Mhm.
I loved it when I had to like move and sell things off. It just kept getting better and better and I think it did make the actual the sales actually went faster too, but just by like numbers, if you wanna. I mean, it's kind of a cheater way to do it, to take away the actives, but still, it counts at least.
Well,
It gives
but
you
isn't
kind of
it
a
like a
fresh
ball
start. Like, why
rolling?
not have a fresh start?
Yeah, and like a ball rolling. I really do believe that. So like I lowered some of those prices yesterday because I was just wrong. And then today I get watchers, right? And I also redid my aged inventory markdown for the month yesterday. And so then we change it, we go on these big markdowns depending on how long they've been in our store. And then you get watchers. And then just for a second, especially when I just did the markdown, I think, gosh, do I really want to send an offer on top of this? I just lowered the price by 35%. You know what I do? Yep, sure do. I'm sending those offers out because you know what? I want to sell it. I don't want to look at it, but I don't want to keep it and hold it and love it. And sometimes after I do my markdowns, I'm not really making very much money. But all that means is I need to get my original money back out and I need to try again because it means I probably shouldn't have bought it anyway. We get stuck when we're pricing our items based on what we're paying for things. And the what we're paying for things is a totally different mindset and a totally different conversation than what we're pricing things at. I might have totally screwed things up. I have screwed up whole bulk buys where literally it was so painful. I had to do the work. I had to list them and I knew I wasn't ever going to make my money back on them. And I won't do it again. Learned a pretty good lesson, but it happens to everybody. And us sitting there hanging on to it because I already did the work. I already did the work. It's already up there. It can sit there. Yeah, that's crap. Like when I'm going through some of my listings and I'm like, okay, this one pair of beaded earrings by themselves, probably not ever going to sell. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was doing, and it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to get them out of there. So, and plus, once you get to a certain size store too, I do believe people get scrolling fatigue a little bit. So when usually they probably do like most recently listed, they probably put that first. But if they don't, can you imagine if they start scrolling through all your old stuff and like, oh my gosh, what is this about? Like, I don't want people thinking that. And I'm sure they do because I'm sure I don't have it all out of there. But you have to decide that cutoff date. Mine's a year. And I'm kind of moving more towards Larry. Like, I don't know if people have been looking at these earrings for 6 months and nobody wanted them, they probably don't want them. So, I gotta just
And they're 50%
get it.
off of what you originally were listing them for.
I know, and what's even worse is the ones that when I get told all the time, well, I have the space and they can sit there, but they won't even mark them down. Or they'll run a big 10% off coupon and think like, oh my gosh, I'm giving the whole house away. And so like we have to, if we're selling on eBay, guys, we are not selling on Sotheby, we're not selling on these high-end, high-class markets. We are selling on eBay. And if you want to sell on those platforms where you get all the money all the time, then you need to sell on those platforms because we're on eBay. And so if we're not willing to give deep discounts based on how long they've been sitting in our store, we probably should look for a different platform, because eBay is absolutely driven by people wanting to get a good deal. Sometimes you can have like that Trifari set. I wasn't going to give that away, but you know what? Those don't happen very often. I can count on 1 or 2 hands how many times I get something that was truly special and I really was going to wait for the right collector. I think we think it too much. We think, well, that's a really nice brooch. Yeah, it is. But was it a $40 brooch when I listed it? Yeah, it probably wasn't. So you'll find that, or when people do their aged inventory, right, Devin? So I've agreed with Devin twice this morning. So we're gonna like write this down somewhere. Like, I'm all about Devin this morning. I'm agreeing with him today. He said that he loves getting the 2% or 5% coupons or offers from people. Like, who's doing that? What is that? Like, nobody cares about your 2%, 5% offers. Or people will send me like an 8% offer even. I'm like, really? You took time to send me an 8% off offer? Like, if you're not gonna at least go for the big 10, like, what are we doing? Like, I don't really get it. And it's usually people are overpriced to begin with. I always want to send them a little card, like, maybe you could come to our call. We'll talk to you. We'll look at your prices. Um, but those people sometimes are in love with their items too. And we can't be, I'm not. And me and Russ are always on that same boat. Like, they are widgets to make me money. I don't love them. Sometimes I'm disappointed in an item that I thought was really good, and then it just sits there. Sometimes that happens. But yeah, and if we know our numbers, we have all the power in the world. And sometimes we know our numbers and it's not good. Sometimes it's like, gee, I lost $3 on that. But we learn, we move on. And we redeploy that money we do get back, because and sometimes we got to just take it out there and redonate. And then we really did lose money on that. That's just part of business. You know, retail big guys do it all the time, and we have to do it too. Know when it's time to cut your losses. And yep, we listed it. Doesn't mean it has to die there. Like, for goodness sakes, I know people have things in their store for sometimes 3 years. Like, just put it out of its misery already. Just let it go and refreshen your store up. You don't want to go into your favorite clothing store and walk in the door and it's like, God, that same rack's been there for a year, right? You quit looking. You quit being interested. I want my people to be interested in what we're putting up. And sometimes when I pull out my inventory for the day and I get all prepped and everything, how many of you guys get where like, oh, it goes under the light box or under your lights and it's like, there's something wrong with it, or it's not in good a condition as we thought it was. And then I feel like some people just go ahead and push through it. Well, I got it ready for today. Like, no, if it's like today, 2 of my items. One, the clips on the back of the one clip-ons, I missed it. They weren't very tight. Had to go in the junk box. And then the other one, oh, the other one was gold, so I pulled it. But you know, it's better to make those mistakes on this end of things than when the customer gets it. I think I'm also really painfully a little prickly about that because of the return issues. So now I'm like super overly careful. You know, something I did realize the other day that's probably my fault is when we do use that condition box, when we're listing on the desktop, which is fantastic. I'm all about it. People don't see that on mobile. So make sure not as well. You don't see it as well if you see it at all. So I would say if you're listing anything with flaws, which I absolutely do, probably need to put it in the condition box and the description box just to cover us, because when I was going through all those INADs and eBay would say, I can see it, but maybe they didn't. And I, of course, my answer was maybe they should freaking look. And then they were like, yeah, well, on mobile, sometimes that box doesn't show. And I'm like, well, that's not good, right? So I'm going to make sure I put my flaws in both places. And I think, you know, I've only been listing on desktop for a short period of time. But I think that was something I probably missed on a few. eBay still said I was in the right because they could see in the original listing I did it. I don't want these issues. So I'm going to make sure just since I screwed that up, I thought I would share it with you. We definitely need to put it in both places. So tomorrow, if you guys could please bring an item to look at the price. It doesn't even have to be your item. Bring a listing. Doesn't have to be your listing. Bring a listing, an item, and let's do some pricing together. And also I'd put it in the Facebook group, but since people are here that actually come, if I did one day that was nothing but Q&A a week for Wake Up and Resell, if people would participate in that, or even store reviews, we could do it like store reviews / Q&A, listing reviews / Q&A. I would really like to do that, but I don't want to come not prepared with the topic and then have nobody come with a story view and nobody come with the listing, nobody comes with questions. Then I'm just sitting here and twiddling my thumbs and we have crickets. So let me know what your feedback is on that. If you guys would participate, I'm happy to do it. If not, then I'll continue to do a topic on every time. We're gonna finish out, do a really quick, actually we'll do it tomorrow. I want to do a little bit better. Our metrics, we'll do it tomorrow. Go through our metrics because some of the metrics screen, unless it's just me, seem to have updated and they look a little different. So I want to point out what looks different on those so that we can all make sure we're checking them and checking our feedback and everything. And remember, defects come off on Thursdays. So if you call eBay, you need your defect removed or whatnot, you're not going to see those things change until Thursdays. Feedback can drop off immediately. The defects do not. So they're on Thursdays. So I always check on Friday morning, see what's going on. All right, guys, that's it for our Wake Up and Resell Monday. Our Tuesday Wake Up and Resell will be pricing together and just looking at different listings. And join our Resell Revenue Facebook group if you want to join us.